Hello dreamers, and welcome to this week's In Focus session, which is part 2 of 4, where I am joined by Mr. John Dashfield, who will explain in a minute who he is and what he does. But In Focus sessions are where we break down one topic at a time and we really dig a little bit deeper under the surface to try and find out more about it. So as I said, today I am joined by John. If you haven't listened to part 1, which was about time, go back and listen to that because you're going to want to after this. But this is part 2 and we're going to be touching on overthinking. But John, first of all, can you explain a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Sure. So I would say that I'm a coach, although that means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. But I'm a coach. I work in the business world. I set up a coaching business in 2004. So I think it's close on 15 years now. And prior to that, I'd been interested in sort of psychology and personal development really since my early 20s. That goes back about 30 years. Yeah. So I'm mainly working with entrepreneurs, people who own businesses, people in businesses.
Yeah, nice. And John's time comes at a premium, for those who are wondering, which is why I'm very thankful to have him here. I'm actually at his place. I've had to come to him. We're in John's office, and yeah, like I said, John's time comes at a premium. So very appreciative to have these time to record with him. So as I mentioned in the previous episode, part 1, we were speaking about time, but we kind of ventured into a little bit of the pace of the mind and the way thoughts are created and the pace of those thoughts, rumbling around in someone's head. So for you, overthinking tends to be a barrier for a lot of people in terms of wanting to do stuff, but they overthink it. Analysis paralysis is another word which I'm sure you've probably heard. So how can we break that down?
Yeah. Okay. Well, so like you say, I would say with the experience that I've had with people in the business world, that overthinking is one of the biggest problems for people in life, really. Having too much, experiencing too much thought.
Yeah. What causes it? What's the cause of overthinking, do you find, from like the people you work with? And I know certainly from people my age and in and around that sort of generation, there's just so much information all the time through social media, through the TV, there's just information overload.
Yeah.
Does that play a part? What else kind of creates overthinking?
Well, it's such a good question. And see, what you want to understand is that none of us came into this world overthinking. Babies don't overthink, right? So, and really, young kids don't overthink. So we all started out like that. And then you'd say today there's a huge amount of, young people, older than toddlers, but young people and adults who have, a very, very busy mind. They're overthinking stuff. And you think, well, okay, why is that? Well, really the root of it is in misunderstanding where our experience is actually coming from, Alex, you see. How it looks such a problem to me today for so many people is almost like the clash. I don't know if clash is the right word, but like the coming together of the misunderstanding, which I'll go into in a minute, and the information age, or especially technology.
Yeah.
So now the misunderstanding is really the misunderstanding of what's creating our experience. So if you think about it like this, every single one of us individually is having an experience of life, moment by moment by moment. So that experience starts when we come into the world and it finishes when we leave, right? So we're having this experience of life. Now, that experience is entirely a thought-created experience.
Yeah.
See? So we're living in the experience of our thinking, and our life as a human being is entirely a psychological one.
Yeah.
Right.
So by that, how do you mean our experience is? I can't remember how you just worded that, but our experience is created by our thinking. What do you mean by that?
Yeah. Okay. So what we're experiencing is our thought in the moment.
Yeah.
See, rather than our circumstances. So I mean, to put a concrete example in place, let's say, I don't know, I'm just saying what comes into my mind now. Let's say you have a falling out with someone.
Yeah.
Right. So you're annoyed with them over something. The experience of that is entirely in your own thinking. It's not coming from the person that you fell out with. So there isn't but it doesn't look like that to us, does it? As human beings, what happens is we have a thought. A thought comes into our mind, and our awareness, our consciousness brings that thought to life, and we experience it as a feeling. Now,
and is that because we attach something to that thought? We attach a feeling to the thought. Is that what you mean?
Well, it's not attach it. The thing is, you can't separate the two.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thought and feeling basically go together entirely. So the thought that you're having in the moment will be the feeling that you're having in the moment.
Yeah.
And as soon as you get a new thought, you'll have a different feeling. See, and that's going on moment by moment by moment constantly. Now, one of the primary reason why people have got a busy mind is it doesn't look to them that it doesn't look that that's what's going on. It looks like that our experience has something to do with our circumstances.
Yeah.
So the range of circumstances can be absolutely infinite, right? But I mean, we think that what makes us happy is stuff on the outside. We think that what makes us sad or you choose any feeling or emotion, and if we attribute that feeling to something outside of ourselves, like that person makes me happy or that person makes me angry, or that experience is one I want more of, or that experience is one I want less of, or I want that job and I'll only be happy when I get that job, or I can't stand the job that I've got right now, it's making me unhappy. That's not what's going on.
Yeah.
See, what we're experiencing is our thought in the moment, which is different. And so the reason that people are thinking so much is because of this misunderstanding of where their experience is coming from. And that really is what's underneath it. Now, you couple that misunderstanding with what's going on in the world of information, social media, and really, if you get underneath that and see what's going on, you'll realise that people are living out of feeling states. The way people feel with a busy mind is tense or uptight or anxious or worried, or some kind of sort of fear-based feeling. There's with a lot of people, it's almost like present, and you see, because our behaviour comes from how we feel. Yeah. See, that's what's really leading to people's behaviour.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It does, and I think I can relate a lot. Certainly in my, funny enough, past, but previously, I can relate to what you were saying about thinking that by having this job I'll feel this way, or by doing this thing I'll feel that. And I think the awakening moment for me was getting a job that I thought I wanted so badly, but still not being happy in the moment whilst having the job that I thought was going to make me happy.
Yeah.
So how then, and I feel like this is like we said, a very widespread problem with people in this day and age for all the reasons you've mentioned. And so stripping it back, what can people do to kind of tap more into the, I guess you can call it underthinking?
Yeah. Okay. Well, the short answer is, let me give you an example of how I would work with someone who is a client of mine who came along and said, I'm overthinking stuff. Because we tend to know, don't we?
Yeah.
When we're overthinking it.
Yeah.
People know that. But the thing is, because we don't know what the root kind of causes of it, we tend to carry on doing it. So it's really what I do is share an understanding with people of how their experience is being created moment by moment. Okay, and that understanding has got different names, but let's call it the inside out understanding.
Yeah.
So the inside out understanding is pointing to the fact that our experience is being created moment by moment by thought in the moment. It isn't being created via our circumstances. So thought is like the middleman between our, what's going on in our lives and what we're experiencing. It's and see, when people take that out of the equation, that's what tends to result, or what often results, is a lot of overthinking.
Yeah.
See, and if you look at, if people think that their experience is going to come from the circumstances of their lives, people spend an awful lot of time trying to get more of the circumstances that they think is going to make them feel happy or good, and they try and spend an awful lot of time trying to avoid the circumstances they think they don't like or make them feel bad. See, well, that approach to life doesn't work, because it's a misunderstanding. See, because we all know this, right? There's people. I wrote a blog post about this the other day, where it doesn't matter how much money, or for example, or how much in possessions people have got. We all know examples of people who've got everything you could possibly imagine who are miserable.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
So you think, okay, well, that doesn't work then, right? So what I point people towards is really, we're all naturally, we've all got perfect health, mental health. But what gets in the way of that is a lot of thinking that's really the result of a misunderstanding of where our experience is coming from.
Yeah.
And once we begin to catch on where our experience is coming from or what's creating it, we just start to naturally experience a quieter mind more often, because it doesn't, it stops making sense to us to keep overthinking, because you wouldn't see the value in it.
Yeah.
Does that?
Yeah.
You with me?
Yeah. So then, how useful are things like, people saying, if you're overthinking, write loads of stuff down, or, the kind of real practical tips and advice that people give, like, if you're overthinking something, count to 5 and then go and do it. If you're not going to go and do it, forget about it. Like, how helpful are those kind of practical bits and pieces in terms of overcoming overthinking?
Yeah. Well, the way I would see this is as general pieces of advice that are given out to people. I don't think there is any value in it. If it's something that comes to them from their own thinking as an insight, then I think there's an awful lot of value in that for people. So, for example, if my mind's really busy, if I'm in the office and I'm really, really busy, let's say I've got writer's block, nothing's coming to me, and I just get an idea, have a break, go out for a walk. Yeah? And that just came to me. Now, and I go out for a walk around the block for 20 minutes, come back, and suddenly I'm back in the flow and I'm writing again, Well, that was something that came to me in the moment from my thinking, so it was useful. But if I suddenly started saying to people, well, every time you've got a busy mind, what you want to do is you want to get up and you want to go out for a walk for 20 minutes. Well, if you look at that as, okay, well, how well does that work? What you'll find is it doesn't work that well applied as a generalisation.
Yeah.
You with me? So,
and is that because, linking back to what you were saying earlier, that our experiences are created through our thoughts? So and by knowing what we want for ourselves in a way. So like you're saying, if you're sitting down, you've got writer's block, your mind will tell you this is what you need to do to sort of refresh, reset and come back.
Yeah. So it's almost two things. It's like your own mind will tell you to reset, or really you just have a realization that the writer's block, or that's a metaphor for anything, right? It is really coming because you're overthinking it. And so what I've noticed is far more useful for people is for them to have an understand. Once we understand that there are very clear principles behind the working of the mind, and we grasp those principles for ourselves, then tactics and strategies and useful ideas that are coming from external sources we just wouldn't really see the value in that, a lot of the time, because it's just not, it's too generalized. Those kind of things don't generalize across because everyone's got their own individual circumstances, and so what's going to work for me is not necessarily going to work for you. Right. So that's my art.
So again, it comes back to that thing of living more presently and in the experience of now, rather than constantly, thinking or worrying about a million things.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to overthinking, you see, there's a feeling to that. Okay, and it's recognizing that feeling is not to do with what you're thinking about. It's to do with the fact that it's just going, it's flagging up with you that the experience you're having is being created by too much thinking. Well, that's as far as you need to go. You don't need to go any further than that. You just need to see that that's what's going on. And as you see that's what's going on, it's the seeing that that's what's going on that's going to do the work for you. In terms of it doing, there's nothing that you really need to, you don't need to go to work on overthinking, because you can't get a quieter mind by doing more thinking.
Okay, amazing. Have you got a final word on overthinking?
Well, I think what it's really useful to see is that your feelings are almost like a barometer for your thinking. So it's almost like you can't separate thought and feeling, but as soon as you do, in your mind, you say, well, my feeling's coming from somewhere else. That's when you're going to create problems, because then you're attributing, you're creating a cause-effect relationship between something that doesn't exist. See, and as we see that there's this direct connection between thought and feeling, see, that's what does the work for us. See, and because ultimately overthinking is a habit. See, and whenever anyone breaks a habit of any kind, what always accompanies that is that they've jumped up in consciousness. So when someone jumps up in consciousness, they have a different feeling, and they're actually in a different reality than the one they were before.
Okay, amazing. And for people who want to connect with you or find out more about you, where can they go?
Well, people can find me on my website, Dashfield.com. Then go on there, and all the contact details. I think there's a newsletter that I write occasionally that they can sign up for. Okay,
perfect. And guys, as ever, you can always connect with me at I am Alex Manzi on Instagram and Twitter. Thank you, John, for this one. Make sure you come back for part 3 or 4, where we'll be discussing purpose and the lack of for some people. So appreciate you listening. And remember, as ever, make sure you go out there and chase your dreams.